Hey, welcome back. We're still working on this E46 buddy of mine. So last video we did the convertible latch top, or the convertible top latch. Now I ordered quite a few things to start messing with the engine, fix some of these oil leaks, etc. So one of them being the oil filter housing gasket. So this thing's got a pretty nasty leak all over the place down there. You can kind of see all the sludge there and everything. He already did the valve cover. And then I believe our Vanos switch is also leaking. You see all that dripping on the radiator hose and everything. Not a very good angle for that, but anyway. So got that. Got the intake pulled off. Needs a new intake boot. This boot's split, so it's causing a vacuum leak there. And then just replace this little hose too on the evap. So if you look at the old one's just completely dry rotted through. So that was easy, pop on and off. But got a new filter housing gasket, new Vanos switch, solenoid, new lower radiator hose, because I believe we're leaking there as well. I'll do a separate video, we'll pressure test that and everything. Then I got an O-ring for the fan switch. And then also the back right window regulator doesn't work, so we just picked up a new window regulator as well. So next couple of days, week, whenever I find time, I guess, I'll be just knocking stuff out on this car, so I'll just make video as we go. We'll see how it ends up being split up and everything, but today we'll start with some of the easier stuff. So I'm gonna go ahead and do the Vanos switch first and kind of go from there. Alright, so first thing we're gonna have to do is disconnect the two electrical connectors. Got one going there and then one going to the switch itself. And then we want to pull that wire out to the front so we're able to get our 32mm socket on there. So they have a special 32mm socket. This is just a normal 32 impact, but it does fit. I tested it with my new switch there. So you may get lucky and be able to just use a regular impact socket. But anyway, we'll get those disconnected and out of the way, and we'll get our socket on. And we're just basically just gonna, like this new one looks here, just unscrew it. It's got an O-ring there, and there's also an O-ring in the switch, which you could get away with just replacing the O-ring here. It's if the one inside the switch, which I believe this one, based on the amount of oil that's down there, I believe that switch is also leaking, so we're just gonna replace the whole switch. Alright, see the big Y junction on that wiring, that's what gets in the way of this. So now that that's out of the way, push down on our hose a little bit there. That should slide right up and engage on that. So we'll go ahead and break that loose. Alright, very little effort to break that loose. Alright, moving on from the Vanos switch, we're going to go ahead and do the oil filter housing gasket. So first thing, we'll disconnect our fan clutch here. Pull this tab and this bolt over here, and pull this shroud out of the way. I have this special tool that's made to grab onto the bolts on the water pump pulley to hold it in place. Just like that, it's broke loose. Alright. Now that opens up a ton of space down here. We're going to take our T50 and put it on that bolt, push it down. That's how we'll get our belt off. Check the belt. Belt doesn't look too bad. We'll do the same for the main belt. Pop this other cap off here. Okay, on this one it's a 8mm Allen. So do the same thing. Pull this guy off. This belt's seen its better days, so we'll have to get a new one of these. So this bearing is toast, and that one doesn't sound, honestly all of them don't sound too good, so probably recommend to my coworker here to replace all the tensioners in this idler. This idler definitely needs to be replaced. It's not even free spinning at all. So we'll get to that later. All right, next we're going to loosen the oil cap so everything will drain to the bottom. This is a 36mm. We will not be draining the oil on this. You shouldn't have to drain the oil to do the gasket. Alright, so with that loose, next step is going to be to move this power steering out of the way. Alright, with that off to the side, we'll have to pull this alternator off next. So obviously I do have the battery disconnected. So we'll go ahead and do that cable there and the power cable here on the back side. and break this bolt up front loose for this idler. That's also attached to the alternator. It's a 16. Alright, so all the bolts are out. Able to push it. Get a little pry bar to help pop it out. There's your alternator. We'll probably replace that as well. That was making a bunch of noise. And it looks like this is going to have to be replaced, whatever this is. Part of the tensioner there, it's broken. And get this out as well. So obviously I'm pulling more stuff apart than you really need to. You can leave that on the filter housing, that's not going to hurt anything, but since that's broken, we're going to have to replace it. It looks like there's supposed to be a rubber bushing in this, and it's just really worn out. Alright, with everything out of the way, there's 6 bolts holding this housing on. There, there, and there. Looks like 2 connectors. You got a connector here and a connector here to undo. And then with those bolts out, this whole housing should be able to slide back this way to be able to get to the gasket down there. So we'll do that, clean off all our, you can see all the oil down there. Clean all that off, put our new gasket in, tighten it up, and reverse process of putting everything together. Of course, I'm gonna have to go order some parts on our front area here, some tensioners, belts, and probably going to replace that alternator too, so probably won't get to that today. But we'll at least get this back on and then get a good cleaning of everything and go from there. Alright, these are 13s, so go ahead and break them loose. Almost forgot, gotta undo the Vanos line there too. So that's 19 millimeter. pop it out. And there you can see your gasket right there. Alright, so we'll go ahead and clean this up. Get the new gasket in. Alright, so we got it cleaned up, the new gasket in. You can see the old one. I mean, barely any flex to it. It's hard as a rock. So it's definitely time. So we got our surfaces cleaned up. Now we'll go ahead and reverse process, put it back together. Alright, so we got the housing back on the dowel, the two dowels in there, and got the bolts snugged up, so they torque to 22 Newton meters from what I've seen online, so that's what we'll torque it to. Next we got our banjo fitting, which fortunately I have some new crush washers already for this. Make sure you replace your crush washers. As I learned back doing the transmission on my Versa, if you try and reuse crush washers, they most likely will leak. Pull those out. This guy up. Alright, so our Vanos oil line is connected. That torque is 24 foot-pounds. I just snugged it with a wrench. I'll go ahead and put our filter back in. Okay. Alright, and that's all torqued up. We'll just gotta put the rest of the accessories back on, which I'll probably pick up next week because I'm gonna have to order. We'll go ahead and order just a full belt service kit to include all the belts, tensioners, everything, pulleys. And then we'll go ahead and probably replace the alternator as well.